3D Peacock Acrylic Nail Art Tutorial by Hotpinkzebrapolish. So on the nail that has the peacock on it, I'm going to be forming 3 blue, and they're kind of U-shapes. So just place a blue bead and then sort of poke your brush in the center to give it a little indent. On the other nail, you just want to do them all down the one side, and you're going to do the opposite side of your peacock. So as I'm going down the left side on this nail tip, well, it's the left side for me, and the video looks like the right. Anyways, I'm doing it on the other side. So then add some purple acrylic going around them. So you're going to want to circle the blue U's. So make sure that there is purple acrylic completely surrounding them, because then once we file it off, it'll look like different layers of color, and you'll be able to see the blue and the purple in the end. So right now, if you can't see the blue anymore, don't worry about it. Try and keep the purple thin, because the thinner it is, the less filing you'll have to do, and less filing is always a good thing. So then the next layer is going to be silver. And on the silver, if it gets a little thicker above the U, so on the curved part of your blue, so on the outer edge of the nail, that's actually a little bit better. But if you don't have space, like I know mine, it's a pretty thin nail tip, so there's not too much space, just fill in as much as you can. It's all good. And try and make sure that you keep some space between the silver areas. So you want each of these layers to stay pretty thin, because if they get to where they're touching, you kind of lose some of the effect. So now I'm going to be filling in the rest of the nail tip with pink acrylic, and it's the same thing. If your pink covers up some of your silver, don't worry about it. We're going to be filing it off anyway, but the least amount on top of the silver means a lesser amount of filing, and it's just sort of a good thing to not have to file very much, especially if you do hand filing like I do. Probably wouldn't be such a big deal if you're using a Dremel or an e-file. So, you know, whatever floats your boat. So now I'm going to be, as I mentioned, I'm going to be filing to reveal the silver, purple, and blue layers that are underneath there. As you're filing, though, you keep in mind that your silver, the metallic quality of it is going to file away, so it's going to end up looking kind of gray. And I'm okay with that. It's not really a big deal to me, but, you know, just in case. So then I'm going to be encasing that nail with a thin layer of clear acrylic. So now I'm going to be filing that once again, and this is after you have finished filing to reveal the colors, you don't really have to worry about it being smooth, but after the clear, you want to make sure it's smooth. So now with black paint, this is acrylic paint, I'm going to be adding the middle part of each of these feathers, and then adding the little fluffy feathers going around that middle part that we sculpted with the acrylic. So I'm just going to add some black lines going around. And one tip that you may or may not know is if you water down your black paint just a tiny bit, it'll keep its opacity, but it'll be thinner and it'll go on smoother. Or you can use India ink. That is also a thinner liquid that might go on a little smoother for you. So now I'm going to be adding a layer of glossy top coat. If you're using UV top coat, you're going to want to cure it, and if you're not, let this dry completely. So now I'm going to be sculpting my peacock's head, neck, and body, and I'm going to start by just covering that tip with blue acrylic. The reason we didn't make the flowers all the way down is because we'd be covering them up anyway, and so it's just added work that's not necessary. So I'm going to start, and I'm just going to fill in that tip right up to about that first, the first feather, and then add the neck coming up. And you want to keep your peacock looking curvy and smooth looking. That makes any sense. And then add another bead on top of that for the head, and you want him to look almost like a backwards S. So you want all those edges nice and round. So then I'm going to be adding his beak with silver. And instead of, we're not going to have to worry about his beak turning gray here, because we're not going to file it, so it'll keep that nice silver quality. So then I'm going to add just a little bit of glitter, and I'm going to focus the glitter on his chest mostly, and then sort of feather it out over his head and his back. And then add a tiny bead of purple acrylic and sort of form it into a leaf shape or an eye shape. And then with your brush, poke it into the center and sort of pull out the acrylic so that you get an outline instead of a solid shape. So then I'm going to add a black bead in that area that we just made void with the purple. And then I'm going to be highlighting around the eye a little bit and below and around with a lavender color. It's a very light purple. It's a lighter shade than the color of acrylic we've been using. And then add just some lines on his body for his feathers. And this is a scalloped line, so just make little loops, kind of like you're doing fish scales actually. And then add a thin black line separating his beak from his head, and then down just to make a little bit more definition between his head and his neck. So now I'm going to be adding some white highlights to his eye and his beak, and then 3 white lines coming up from the back of his head. These are for his head feathers. And you want these to be fairly thin and straight. And then paint over those head feathers with a glossy top coat once they've dried, and place a metallic purpley black gem on the end of each of those lines. And also add some of that glossy top coat over his eye, and then matte top coat over everything else, being careful not to get it on the areas you want shiny. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you like my design. Please share any recreations with me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. I really would love to see them, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!